Hi, I'm April Shih. I'm a half-hour dramedy writer. I'm currently a staff writer on the FXX show, You're the Worst. I'm currently also in the CBS Writers Mentoring Program, and I recently completed the Sundance Episodic Story Lab. I'm originally from Los Angeles. I was always making stuff up as a kid, so really storytelling was kind of like a natural pathway for me. And I ended up going to film school at NYU to pursue directing and writing. Moved back to LA and really kind of got my hands dirty in the indie film world, wearing pretty much every hat as you do in indie film. And after that, I kind of had to figure out what my game plan was gonna be because I don't know if you know, but there's not a ton of money in indie film, and I just needed to have something to kind of be able to support myself with. And at that moment, I kind of discovered that there was this thing called television writing, and you do it in a room with other like-minded, awesome people, and get to talk about story all day. So I was like, okay, that's a dream job. So from that point on, I turned my focus to television writing, pursued a certificate in television writing at UCLA Extension, have taken several years of workshops everywhere around town, and yeah, finally was able to break in this past year. So the main classes and workshops that I really love, and I've pretty much taken everyone in Los Angeles, my favorite ones are Script Anatomy, Joan Shekel, and Corey Mandel. And I love them all for different reasons. So Script Anatomy is great because it's, you're working in a kind of writer's room setting with working writers as your instructors, and the deadlines are great. And they have tools as well to really help you keep you on track. But I really just love the structure of that program, and I tend to finish drafts when I'm in that class. Even though I'm working right now, I plan on taking one to finish a pilot. Joan Shekel is an interesting woman. She is, the workshop itself isn't geared just for writers, it's for creators of all kinds, writers, directors, producers, cinematographers, actors, and basically it's a very physical and intuitive way of figuring out story and trying to use your body to kind of find structure for your story. And it's really hard to explain, but those workshops have really changed the way I've approached writing, because I tend to be a very cerebral person. It was nice to get in my body and kind of figure out, like, what do I really want to write about? And Corey Mandel actually fits very well with the Joan Shekel work, because he also believes that there's the intuitive side and the conceptual side. And with Joan, I'm doing all this intuitive work, but not really sure how to put it in a container. And Corey gives me the tools to be able to draw everything I've gotten from Joan and put it in, and has given me a real process for putting it in a container or a structure. And so right now I'm really loving both of those. The journey to finding my voice was a very long and roundabout one. Back when I was writing features, it didn't necessarily matter, what format I was writing, because it was a feature. The tone could be dark and funny, and I didn't really have to define it that much. So when I switched to TV, everybody told me I had to pick a lane. And at that moment, I was like, well, I'm not a hard joke writer. I like finding humor in all situations, and I love watching dramas. So I actually started writing hour-longs first. When I was at UCLA, I only wrote hour-longs. And I felt kind of like I wasn't being completely authentic writing the really heavy, dark stuff with pretty much no comedy. So one day I decided just to write a half-hour thing on a whim, and it was semi-autobiographical, so I wrote it really quickly. I wrote a half-hour script in about 3 days for the first draft. It was the reason why my first half hour got the response that it did. So it was like a personal story. And so now I make sure to operate from that place, knowing that it's like, okay, I gotta write something that I like and something that feels real to me, and hopefully other people will like it. And so far it's worked for me. So. Writers groups are so important to me because writing in a bubble can be very isolating, and you also just can't tell if something's good anymore after a while. I think as a writer, it's easy to go from being like, this is the best idea ever, I'm loving my script, and this is gonna be awesome, to immediately being like, this is the worst thing I've ever written. And having people who know who you are as a writer and know your voice and kind of know your tendencies as well, is incredibly valuable because they can be like, look, you were like this on your last script. Like, this is all part of your process, you know? But also, I mean, the feedback is incredibly important. I think that notes process and being open to notes is so important for the rest of your career. So it's nice to get that practice early, right? And also the practice of giving notes. Pretty much every skill that I have and utilize in the writer's room now, I've gotten from being in my various writers groups. I first applied to the network fellowships starting as an hour-long writer. I've been applying to these programs for 5 or 6 years in a row with different scripts every year, different specs and pilots. So it really is a game in just persistence and knowing that it is a numbers game to an extent. I mean, there are thousands of submissions every year. Like, the best writers are not all gonna get interviewed even. I'd gotten close in 2014 and I made it to the interview round of CBS but did not ultimately go forward. And I didn't really let that bum me out too much. I mean, I was definitely bummed out, but it made me feel like, okay, I'm on the right track. And maybe the script is there, but maybe my presentation wasn't there. And so that was actually when I hired you, because I felt like maybe there was something that was missing on that side, and I really wanted to make sure I was more polished for the next opportunity I had. Then last year, I got into 4 different fellowships, so it just takes persistence. The Sundance lab was definitely a dream for me. Like, from back in my indie film days, I wanted to do the Sundance labs. So when I got in the Sundance episodic lab, I was, thrilled, of course. But the process of it is still surreal to me now, because what happened was they flew us out to the resort in Utah for about a week and basically paired us with all these creative advisors who we hung out with the whole entire time. And we did nothing but talk about story and our personal lives and, you know, in the industry and our fears and everything for the entire time we were there. And there was not really a moment where it let up. Like, every hour of every day was planned down to the minute. We went on hikes with these people. We drank at the bar with these people. And we received, 3-hour blocks of notes from each of our advisors, at a time. So we went really in depth with our projects. So it took me a long time to kind of process the notes when I got back, but I've heard from the program directors that is completely normal and actually is what is expected and why they do it. They want to make sure that we are able to kind of get as deep as possible, not rush into fixing it. They don't even care if you rewrite it, honestly. They just want you to go through that process of thinking a little deeper and knowing what it really takes to make a script kind of industry sellable, It's an ongoing support system. And I actually just saw the Sundance people last night, and they are, picking up the phone for me. They literally were like, oh, someone just called me about a show for you. Are you available? They wanted to know your availability starting in May. I was like, are you guys my agents? But all kidding aside, they actually said, we will be your third rep for the entirety of your career. Like, we'll be those advocates for you and not take a commission. So I'm incredibly grateful for the experience and to be a part of the Sundance family. And I'm still pinching myself that happened, because it feels like a dream. I know a lot of people in Los Angeles because I've lived in Los Angeles for a long time. I've been working in the industry for over 10 years. So just naturally, you're gonna meet people and you're gonna befriend people you're working with and then hang out with their friends. And so I think that's why everybody says it's really important especially as a television writer, but all screenwriters, for people to live in Los Angeles, because you're just not gonna be amongst LA people who are working in the industry if you're living in Kansas, unfortunately. And you can really work on your craft there, but you're just not gonna get the relationships that you can get here. I think the biggest thing for me is I genuinely wanna be friends with these people. That is like the number one thing. I love people, I love hanging out with people. It's really easy to kind of lean back and be like, if they really wanna hang out with me, they'll email me. I really use that opportunity to kind of reach out to people a lot, and then they're like, oh yeah, it's been a while, like we should grab a drink and catch up. And it just becomes incredibly organic and easy once, you're willing to put yourself out there. The advice that I wish someone had given me is basically to rate the thing that really feels like you and the thing that really excites you, or the thing that makes you afraid, the thing that makes you cry when you think about it, and not worry so much about like checking off boxes. I think I spent a lot of time checking off boxes because I'm like the good student who wants to make sure I have every single thing checked off. It doesn't really matter if you have all those boxes checked, if you really don't care about those scripts, you know what I mean? And it took me a long time to really just let myself write the thing that other people were telling me not to write. You're the one who knows when it feels right. And I had to really learn to trust my instincts a lot over the last couple of years. I was unrepped at the time. I was in between managers, and it was December 1st, so I was kind of not expecting anything more to happen in the year. And my phone rings, and it's a random number, and I pick it up, and it's the line producer from You're the Worst. She got my email address and hung up. An hour later, I get an email from the showrunner's assistant saying, "Can you come in on Tuesday to meet with Steven?" So I went from 0 to showrunner meeting in like an hour on a Friday afternoon. I ended up getting the offer the following Monday, and I ended up signing with my boss's own agent that following Wednesday. And yeah, it's been really a dream come true. It feels like it manifested out of thin air, but I guess a lot of wheels were turning, and I didn't really know that they were even happening. So it's a pretty crazy story.